Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a journey into some really chilling, kind of inexplicable corners of the internet. We've got this collection of videos, pretty disturbing stuff that have left viewers and, yeah, even the people who filmed them just completely perplexed. These aren't like polished horror films. We're talking about unsettling, often really grainy glimpses of, well, what might be lurking just beyond what we normally see. Captured by ordinary people, sometimes by security cameras.
Yeah, and what's really intriguing about these, digital captures is how they offer this raw, kind of unedited window into moments that just defy easy explanation. So our mission today is basically to explore several of these incidents. We're drawing from a compilation that was initially shared on the Mr. Nightmare YouTube channel. We want to understand not just what they saw, but maybe the bigger picture, like why these specific moments hit us so hard, tapping into that sense of unease. So yeah, get ready to maybe look a bit closer at those blurred lines between reality and something else.
That's exactly it. Because when you think you're alone, or when, the tech you trust suddenly shows you something that just shouldn't be possible, well, that's when things get really interesting and genuinely unsettling. So let's dive into this collection of digital nightmares. Okay, so our first stop, it takes us to a pretty classic setting for this kind of thing, an abandoned nursing home. There's this TikToker on June who went into this derelict building one night, probably looking for thrills, maybe some content for his channel, and in the dim light, he catches sight of a figure moving like further down this long, dark hallway. He was immediately unnerved, turned around, and got out of there. Pretty understandable. But doesn't quite end there. He gets home, looks at the footage, brightens it up a bit, and sees something that clearly bothered him, enough that he decided to go back later that same night. This time he brought a friend. So they go back into that same creepy hallway, recording again, and their footage captures something, well, truly bizarre.
And this is where it gets interesting psychologically, right? Because it's one thing to experience something alone, but adding a second person, especially when they're trying to figure out what's real, what's not, it adds a whole new layer.
Well, absolutely. The video shows the two of them. You can hear their voices are hushed, really tense. You hear the friend saying something like, "I swear I saw something down there. Zoom in a little bit more. Woo." And then this moment of shared shock as a dark figure appears again. One yells, right there, see it. What the, I saw that. That was actually a person, bro. I'm not joking. Let's get out of here. So the fear just ramps up, turns into panic, One friend is even yelling, "Demon, no, dude, oh yeah, now you're scared that they're actually a person. It's chaos." And as they're getting more and more freaked out, this black figure is seen walking into one of the rooms off the hallway, just vanishes from sight. One friend insists, like, "I can't hear him down. I'm not fiend playing," but the other's trying to rationalize it maybe. He's saying, "I can't hear anything, dude. You're an idiot. You're fucking crazy." "No, I'm not. Guaranteed you 100%, but walks past again. It's a real person. I'll go at him, whatever it is." It's that mix of pure terror and, like, trying to be brave. Feels very real.
It's fascinating, that clash in how they're coping. One leans right into the fear, the other tries to deny it, or maybe even confront it. That push and pull, it's such a classic psychological response, isn't it? When faced with something that doesn't make sense, the mind just scrambles to fit it into some kind of box, even if it means dismissing what your friend is clearly experiencing right next to you.
Yeah, but the absolute most chilling part, it comes as they're finally leaving, getting out. Suddenly, this terrifying scream, honestly, it barely sounds human, echoes through the whole abandoned place. And then, just like that, the video cuts. The last thing you hear from the TikToker is this desperate kind of conviction. "Yeah, there's nothing there. Let's go. All right, I know I saw something, and I know I'm not feeling crazy."
This one really brings up several key points, I think. In these kinds of isolated, rundown spaces, our minds are already sort of primed for the weird. Shadows move, sounds echo strangely. But when you have multiple people seeing something similar, and you have a recording, it forces you to think about that line. The line between, say, psychological stress, your mind playing tricks, and something genuinely anomalous. The fear building up, the disagreement about what they were seeing, and the scream at the end. It creates this narrative that's just deeply unsettling because it really challenges our basic assumptions about what's possible, even when you're not alone. It makes you question shared reality itself.
Yeah, that idea of psychological vulnerability in isolated spaces is really powerful. And it leads us perfectly into the next set of accounts. These focus on people who spend long, solitary hours in similar environments. Overnight security guards. Their world is often just quiet surveillance, right? And maybe because of that, they seem to report strange things quite often. So in one case, a security guard finished his shift, just completely baffled. He calls his boss, pretty upset, asking why nobody told him about the new guy, the new employee. His boss is confused too, pulls up the security tapes from that night. And what the guard sees on the screen, well, it's genuinely terrifying. The footage shows him, the guard, having a full conversation, even dapping, that hand greeting with and pulling out a chair for basically a Schatz. And there was no actual person there, just this shifting darkness that he had clearly perceived and interacted with like a real colleague. He absolutely swore to his boss. I sat there and had a whole conversation with this person.
It's not just a fleeting glimpse or a hallucination in the corner of the eye. This is sustained interaction. The mind, especially when dealing with prolonged isolation or maybe sleep deprivation, it has this incredible capacity to, fill in the blanks, sometimes creating really complex figures, narratives, just to have some kind of interaction. It's often linked to altered states that can happen during really monotonous or solitary work.
And what's really unsettling is this isn't just a one-off. There's another clip, this one filmed by a coworker off a CCTV monitor. It shows a different security guard standing in a corridor or somewhere. And this guard is clearly talking, gesturing, like he's deep in conversation with someone we can't see. So the coworker radios him, asks, "Who are you talking to?" And the guard, completely matter of fact, replies he's chatting with a woman, calls her Miss Abigail. Said she was looking for Mr. Griffin. He told her the office was closed, come back tomorrow morning. Normal stuff. But then the coworker's response, delivered so calmly, it just sends a shiver down your spine. He says, "Are you sure you're saying Miss Abigail? Like she's been passed on for 2 years now, that Miss Abigail. She died 2 years ago." I say, the guard, you can imagine, is clearly unnerved. Yes, you mean you can't see the person I'm talking to? And the coworker just states it plainly. No, there's nobody in front of you at all.
Right. This one adds a different layer, doesn't it? The first incident, you could maybe attribute it more strongly to the individual's psychological state. Hallucination, perhaps. But here you have this stark discrepancy in perception between two people in communication. One is having this vivid experience. The other sees absolutely nothing. It really begs the question, if it's just an extreme psychological event, like a hallucination, how do you explain the consistency, the specific name, the conversation details? Is the brain capable of constructing such a complete interactive scenario on its own? Or are we talking about something else? Presences that maybe exist just outside our usual sensory range, visible only to some people, or maybe only under certain conditions. It really does challenge how universal we think our perception of the environment actually is.
Yeah. Exactly. When a guard is that convinced, down to the details, but the camera and another person see absolutely nothing, it makes you wonder if our realities are always as shared as we think they are. Okay, so from those public kind of empty spaces, let's shift to somewhere even more personal, inside our own homes, where these things feel even more invasive. Picture this, a young guy, he's in his bedroom just practicing piano, and the irony here is he's playing the theme song from Silent Hill, the famously creepy video game. So as he's playing, he glances over at his TV screen, catches his reflection. And there, reflected in the screen, sitting on his bed, is this distinct black figure. He whips his head around to look directly at the bed. Nothing's there. He looks back at the TV reflection. The figure's gone. Seeing that while you're literally playing the theme to a horror game, that's got to be unnerving, to say the least. It makes you wonder if the creepy vibe just kind of seeped out.
Well, the brain is incredibly good at finding patterns, isn't it? Especially in ambiguous visual stuff. Pareidolia. We call it seeing faces or figures in random stimuli. But the interactive part here, like the figure disappearing when he looks directly, that suggests something maybe a bit more complex than just a trick of the light, It definitely taps into that primal fear we have of being watched, especially in our own space where we're supposed to feel safe.
Okay, our next story involves a man who is sure he was home alone. His wife was away, apparently on a trip for about 2 weeks. But then he starts hearing his wife's voice, calling him from downstairs.
Yeah.
Repeatedly saying, come downstairs. He even recorded himself. You can hear the distress in his voice saying, there's no way Emma is here. And this wasn't just the voice, there was also this repeated jarring sound, a door slamming shut, downstairs somewhere. His home security camera actually caught another angle, and yeah, it confirmed the door was opening and closing, seemingly on its own. And then the final touch. A rotating horse carousel music box, one of those things, tucked away in his TV stand. It just suddenly starts playing its music, by itself. Now, naturally, people online have theories. Some suggested, maybe a skinwalker mimicking his wife. Others went straight for demons summoned by a Ouija board, which they also found on the bottom of the TV stand.
Right, and it's important here to separate what's actually on camera from the interpretations people add later. The door closing, the music box. Look, those could potentially have mundane explanations. Drafts, vibrations, maybe an old electrical glitch in the music box mechanism. It's possible. But The disembodied voice, that's much harder to just explain away conventionally. As for the skinwalker or Ouija board theories, well, those reflect our cultural need to create these dramatic, often supernatural narratives around things that scare us and we can't explain. They're interesting stories, but there's no direct evidence in the video for those specific claims. They show more about how we try to make sense of the frightening unknown.
That's a very fair point about the narratives we built. Okay, but maybe one of the most technologically eerie examples involves an Xbox Kinect camera. Now, for anyone unfamiliar, the Kinect, it was this accessory for the Xbox console. Used depth and color cameras to track your body movements. Turned you into the controller, basically. It's specifically designed to recognize human body shapes, map your skeleton, see when new people enter the room. So, in this video, recorded by a guy's Kinect while he's asleep on the couch, you see him lying there. The Kinect shows his stick figure, tracking his movements, confirming it sees him. Standard stuff. But then at some random point in the middle of the night, the video shows something, well, truly shocking. Another stick figure just materializes out of thin air. It approaches the sleeping man on the couch, leans over him like it's watching him, and then slowly, ominously starts moving towards the camera itself before the video cuts out. The really incredibly unsettling part. There was no one else physically in the room, just the sleeping guy. So what on earth was the Kinect picking up?
This one's particularly compelling, I agree, because it uses technology specifically designed for precise bodily tracking. It's not just capturing, say, atmospheric dust or light changes in the same way a normal camera might. Now, Kinect depth sensors can occasionally create ghost figures, environmental factors, maybe sudden light shifts, reflections, but the consistency of this second figure, its clear movement, the way it seems to deliberately approach the sleeping man and then turn towards the camera, that suggests more than just a random glitch. It strongly implies the sensor recognize a moving entity following humanoid skeletal structure. It pushes the boundaries of typical tech errors. It makes you ask, if it wasn't a conventional human form, what else could this sensor possibly be detecting?
There's a comment when your own space, your sanctuary, is invaded by something you can't explain. And then the technology that's meant to see and track us captures something that seems outside the physical realm. It just profoundly challenges your whole sense of reality. It's not just a bump in the night anymore. It's a silent observer, a voice with no body, or this phantom presence made visible by sensors. It makes the ordinary world feel suddenly paper thin. All right, for our final unsettling tale, we turn to what started as a seemingly innocent gift, but quickly became a source of real terror. A TikToker named Cass started posting about this doll she got as a present, an Annabelle's Hugs doll. It was an Ashton Drake doll, bought off Amazon, and right from the start, Cass said she felt like something about it just felt alive. She even joked, that maybe possessed as F was not in the description. The first creepy coincidence. When Cass gets out the doll certificate of authenticity, the name printed on it, Annabelle's Hugs. Just a chillingly direct link to the infamous horror movie doll Annabelle. Enough to make anyone uneasy right off the bat.
But the real moment of dread, the one that got captured on video, happened while Cass was actually unboxing the doll. She suddenly exclaims, "Oh my fing God, I swear to God, this thing just fing looked at me." And when you watch the video playback, the doll's eyes do seem to momentarily turn, looking directly at Cass. Now, what makes this truly disturbing, and why Cass was so freaked out, is a key detail she pointed out. The doll's eyes are not supposed to move like that. She clarified, some dolls' eyes might shift when you pick them up or tilt them, but she says her eyes aren't moving, they ain't moving unless you just blinked right there. Don't fing know.
Yeah, this case taps right into that deep-seated psychological thing. The uncanny valley. That's where something looks almost human, but not quite right, and it creates this profound sense of unease, even revulsion. So when an inanimate object, especially one made to look like a child, seems to break its own rules, like eyes moving when they shouldn't, it really forces us to confront our basic assumptions. Is it just an object, or is it somehow aware? The combination here is potent. The name Annabelle, that perceived sentience, Cass felt, and then the impossible eye movement. It creates this narrative that's really hard to just brush off. It's like a perfect storm of unsettling factors, making you question the very idea of inanimate, especially when the perceived action feels so direct, so personal.
Yeah, it definitely leaves you wondering. Was it just some bizarre manufacturing flaw? Or something far more unsettling going on with a doll named Annabelle. So these stories, every single one captured, shared online. They really give us this chilling glimpse into a world that might be far stranger, maybe more mysterious than we usually think. From those abandoned buildings, the loneliness of a night shift, right into the supposed safety of our own homes. Technology sometimes seems to pull back the curtain on things we were perhaps never meant to see.
It really does encourage you to look beyond the surface, doesn't it? I mean, whether these turn out to be clever hoaxes or maybe profound psychological events or genuine encounters with something unknown, they challenge us. They make us question our assumptions, look closer at the details, and just consider that, there's always more to learn about reality, about perception itself.
Absolutely. These videos are a stark reminder, I think, that sometimes the scariest things aren't monsters jumping out. They're the things that appear quietly, unexpectedly, right when you think you're safe, leaving you wondering what else might be out there. Just, beyond the frame. We hope you'll join us again soon for another deep dive into the fascinating and, often strange world of information. Until then, stay curious and maybe keep those eyes open.